Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Welcome to the session. It is both a pleasure and a novelty for me to be here today, to be moderating this session, to be the griller, not the grilled. But don't worry, I know what it's like to be a panelist, so I'll be very gentle with you. We're here today to talk about activism. We're here to talk about charity, about civic engagement and philanthropy. Topics that are very important to all of us, because no matter where we sit, where we come from, there's always someone either across the street from us or on the other side of town or across the border who could use a helping hand. But the question is, does this helping hand come in the form of a handout, i.e. charity, or does it come in the form of a hand to help them along, to help them up, i.e. civic engagement? And charity is something that our region knows all too well, being the birthplace of the three monotheistic religions, which place the act of compassionate giving to the needy at the very core. But as you know, handouts are not sustainable. Our world needs more than that. We need engaged giving, up close and personal. Because true community is all about togetherness. It's about collective responsibility. It's about joint action. One hand cannot lift society, but many hands can help raise it. So for example, corporate executives going and reaching out to municipal village councillors, for example, beauty companies promoting healthy lifestyles, working women investing some of their time and talent in mentoring girls in impoverished areas. All that is civic engagement. All that is about more active giving. Now, today with our panelists, we want to examine the landscape of philanthropy in the Arab world, see where it is, see where we can take it from here. So without further ado, let me introduce our distinguished panelists. We have Dr. Barbara Ibrahim, the director of the Gerhardt Center for Philanthropy and Civic Engagement at the American University in Cairo. I'll start with His Royal Highness Prince Turki Al Faisal. Many of you know him as a diplomat, but he's also one of the founders of the King Faisal Foundation. We have Mr. Fadi Ghandour, co-chair of the WEF Middle East and CEO of Aramex International. Carly Fiorina, former CEO of HP and founder of the Fiorina Foundation. And finally, Omar Ghubash, deputy CEO of the Emirates Foundation. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Now, I'd like to conduct this in a conversational, casual manner, so please, at any moment, if you feel like jumping in to make a comment, to ask a question, please feel free to do so. I think we'll start off with just talking about philanthropy in general and trying to clarify some issues to our audience. Now, I'll start with you, Carly. Over the last 10 years, I think we've seen the whole field of philanthropy really blossom from a concept to very much a practice in many companies and in civil society. We've seen the launch of many campaigns, such as the one I'm wearing the T-shirt for, the Red Campaign. Why do you think this has happened? Is this as a result of just excess wealth, or is there a change in global attitudes and the global value system?
Well, certainly I would like to believe the latter. And I think there is, on many people's parts and many institutions' parts, a growing realization that a global world is an interdependent world. And therefore, what happens in one part of the world actually affects us elsewhere. Certainly, I know that as the chairman and CEO of a very large technology company, Hewlett-Packard, I believed very strongly that it was in our enlightened self-interest to be involved in building communities and building capacity, because as a company that operated in 156 countries around the world, we knew that if we were helping to provide a helping hand, as you put it, we were also creating employees of the future and customers of the future and partners of the future. It is true that there has been a tremendous amount of wealth created in the last 10 years. And I believe as recently as just a couple of weeks ago, it was reported that there are 950 individuals who collectively have amassed trillions of dollars of personal wealth and now are at a point where they can begin to give back. Certainly, now that I am involved as a private citizen in giving back, I can say that it is the part of my life that gives me the most satisfaction and the most pleasure. So I think it is all of those things. I hope business is more enlightened in its view about its requirement to be a part of the communities in which it plays a role. I hope that people increasingly are aware that interdependence means we all are impacted by the fortune or misfortune of those around us. And I do think there is more individual wealth.
And you said that there is a strategic interest, so it wasn't just a matter of you doing this out of charity, not just out of compassion, but out of a realization that your own corporation stands to benefit, because being sensitive to your political and social landscape also affects your bottom line. Has it affected the bottom line, do you think, the kind of charity work that you did at your corporation?
Certainly, I think it does. I think it requires, however, a company to take a view that is a bit longer than a quarter or a year. Mm-hmm. I think there's no denying that if we think about the world in which an individual or in which a company operates mm-hmm. over a multi-year period, mm-hmm. that communities that are growing and vibrant are also communities that are more peaceful. Mm-hmm. They are communities where future employees or future partners can come mm-hmm. from. So yes, I think it is in a company's
and also being sensitive to your environment creates probably opportunities for you in terms of how
absolutely.
you
His Majesty and Your Majesty were very forward-looking in creating the Jordan Education Initiative here in Jordan, a great example of a public-private partnership, something that Hewlett-Packard was honored to participate in. Mm-hmm. But out of that initiative has not only come more educated people, there's also come great opportunities mm-hmm. for the companies that have been involved in that effort.
We'll pick up on the opportunities later on. But before we continue, Barbara, could we just make it very clear to the audience the distinction between charity and philanthropy?
Sure.
Civic engagement?
Charity is obviously a very well-known part of human generosity in our part of the world. Some would say that it originated here. But usually charity is limited to meeting the immediate needs of the disadvantaged. So you could think of it in a way as consumables. Food, medicine, clothing, blankets, things that will be gone in a very short time, and people will be hungry again. Whereas I like to think of a continuum that goes through, goes to change. So we might move from charity to thinking about development, and this is the old idea of not giving the man a fish, but giving him the pole to fish. We can take this idea, though, I think even further along the continuum and think about transforming societies, addressing issues of inequality and injustice, and the kind of reforms that are needed to make them the societies that we all would like them to be. And that's going to require strategic philanthropy, thinking about scale, and looking at the origins of our problems and tackling them at their root instead of placing Band-Aids on top of them.
Charity strikes me as reducing just symptoms of distress, whereas philanthropy is more about finding solutions to the underlying problems, so it's more of a long-term approach, more of a sustainable approach.
And we have wonderful examples throughout the Third World. The Nobel laureate, Muhammad Yunus, wanted to stabilize incomes for the poorest people in Bangladesh, and he found a mechanism that he could take to scale that was simple enough that it could be replicated broadly, that caught the imagination and the attention of his own society and then later on of the world. And in Egypt today, there's an organization that has 40,000 youth volunteers who are serving in their own communities, finding a way to ameliorate local problems. And so it's scale.
Well, we have an example here at home with Aramex, Mr. Fadi Ghandour, and his project in Nadif. We have a short video here just to show you visually what this project is all about.
صباح الخير يا استعطية
فقلنا القطاع الخاص له دور تنموي كبير، وبيقدر يجي يتبنى هذه المجتمعات وينتقل من مجتمع إلى آخر عبر المملكة.
بدينا بدعم لشركة واحدة اللي هي شركة RMX، دعمت مشروع في جبل النظيف.
ودك بينده كوكو كوكو.
المبدأ الأساسي تبعها أنه نحن مش رح نقرر شو أولويات الجبل، أهل الجبل وأهل المنطقة هم اللي بيقرروا شو أولوياتهم.
الوقفة محتاجين بهالجبل،
محتاجين لمكتب مشان نتعلم فيها يعني ونعلم الأطفال كمان منها.
يعني جبل نظيف يقارب ما فوق 100,000 عدد سكان في جبل نظيف، ما في متنفسات وما في مكان للعب للطلاب، وبنعاني من قلة النظافة وقلة الحاويات، يعني هذه برضه من المشاكل الرئيسية في الجبل.
بدينا بالأمور الظاهرة، يعني الأمور اللي قدرنا نشوف إنه فيها مشاكل. مثلا شفنا المدرسة وحسينا إنه المدرسة بدها ترميم، لأنه في أشياء واضحة، الشبابيك مكسرة، ما في حديد على الشباك، ما في سياج حول المدرسة. الأولاد الأكبر، هاي مدرسة ابتدائية، فالأولاد الأكبر بنطوا على السور بضايقوا الأولاد الصغار.
يعني عرفت إنه راح يظبطوا مدرسة آدكا، يعني حطوا لها شبابيك وضوء، عشان ما كانش الضوء مناح، كانوا كل يوم يركبوا لها ضوء، وحطوا لها كهرباء منيحة. بعدين دهنوها.
ما بصدق لحد ما اشوف عيني.
طبعا جلسة الإصغاء نحن بنسمع للقصة، وبعد ما نخلص قراءة القصة
فكرنا كتير، وفكرنا أول نعمل مشروع فني أو كذا. بالنهاية طلعت الفكرة اللي هي انعملت بمحلات تانية بالعالم، إنه خلي الأولاد يصوروا صور من محيطهم، وهاي الصور تعكس لنا إحنا كيف حياتهم، شو الأشياء الحلوة وشو الأشياء السلبية اللي موجودة بحياتهم.
شو استفدت من ورشة العمل؟ انبسطت فيها؟ شو أحلى شيء كان؟
يعني الرسم.
أعطيناهم الكاميرات على 2 بعد الظهر، يوم كان يوم 4، ويوم الخميس على الساعة 8 الصبح أخذنا منهم الأفلام.
حصلت على منحة دراسية من المؤسسة العربية للتنمية المستدامة من صندوق مصعب خورمة.
أنا اسمي فراس إبراهيم، محمد إبراهيم، بدرس الجامعة.
هذه المؤسسة يعني قدمت لي كثير يعني تسهيلات بمجال تعلمي. المؤسسة العربية للتنمية المستدامة فعلا